What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra.
I'm managing editor Sherlyn Lowe.
Also joining us this week is podcast producer Ben Elman. Hey, Ben.
Hello, I'm finally back from my dog sitting gig back in New York City.
Dog sitting in San Francisco, which actually sounds like a pretty good gig. Like just chilling out with a dog in that beautiful city. This week, folks, we're going to be talking about the MacBook Air M4. Once again, hey, I scrambled to review it really quickly at the beginning of this week. Also, Steve Dent and Engadget reviewed the Mac Studio. So we'll talk a bit about both of those systems, kind of what's working well, what isn't. And also, not a great week for Apple in some respects, too, because they announced on Friday that they're going to be delaying the whole smarter Siri plan. That was the thing they showed off at WWDC. And that, I think, that was kind of like the linchpin. That was like the ultimate thing for Apple Intelligence to get to. And at least Apple says it's coming in the coming year, which could be this year or it could be early next year for the fiscal year. We'll talk about what all of that means, and there's a bunch of news as well. If you're enjoying the show, folks, please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes. It actually makes a big, big difference. And drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. We're not seeing enough emails. I would love to answer questions. I would love to like have a regular segment where we just answer simple questions. I'm actually considering if I ever get free time of just like signing up for volunteer hours at the library, and just be like,
Oh,
hey, bring me your tech questions. I'm just bored, and I could probably help with something tech in your life. Let us do that for you, folks. Podcast and engadget.com. All right, the MacBook Air M4. It's a good computer. What else do you want, folks? Like it's a good fast computer. It's a good ultra
okay,
portable. I
done. We're
don't know what
done.
else
We're
to
done
say.
with
We're
the
done.
episode.
I think for a lot of those reviews, that's kind of how I feel because it's like, yeah, man, the 2022 revision of the Air, which was the whole new redesign, and then the following year they gave us the 15-inch version. Those are really, really good computers. This is iteratively faster because the M4 chip is less than 20% faster than the M3. It has a lower starting price, which I think is great. It's back down to $999. The Air
hmm
actually used to be at that pre the whole I think the whole M1 scene, right? There was
hmm
a point where Apple had gotten the price back down, then it jumped up for $12.99 for the it was the M2 MacBook Air, the one they redesigned it. Now it's fully
mm
back down. I think that's pretty great, and it's 11.99 for the 15-inch. Good prices, good machines, good hardware that's really fast and does everything you want it to do, and the battery life is really good too. So it's like this is such a no-brainer computer for me. Like, as soon as we filed this review, we made this our top recommendation for, like, what you buy for a laptop. Sherlyn, do you disagree? Do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, I think your review is pretty straightforward and laid it out very clearly. I think that the fact that it's a lower starting price is really good. Um, and I mean, people in the chat, by the way, DPro9 says it's a good time to buy a used M1 or like a refurbed or what? Yeah,
I
a
don't
refurbed M1 or something.
so Walmart is selling the M1 at this, like,
Oh,
weird secret discount where Apple doesn't advertise it, but all Walmart has those old units for, like,
mm,
6.99, sometimes 6.50 and below,
are
I
those
believe.
good?
I hear they're only the 8 gigabyte RAM SKUs. And
Oh,
also, those things have terrible screens, like, the screens are old. If you just need, like, a cheap computer for somebody, sure, I guess fine, but you pay a little more, and you can get
yeah.
the used or refurbished M2, which is a much, much better screen and
Okay.
everything. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So there's a screen tech, and then like I think the webcam is also an improvement
Yeah.
on this, at least on this model, compared to the older M1 model. And then, again, another tip from the chat, which I thought was a good one or a good reminder, anyway, is that
Mhm.
like as always, Apple provides an education discount, so like students can get it for I think 8.99, the
Mhm.
MacBook Air M4 that we just reviewed,
It's
which makes
usually a
it even more
100 off.
appealing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, $100 off of, so, like, yeah, basically exactly the SKUs that you choose to get. If you upgrade to more storage or more RAM, then used
Mhm.
to get just, like, $100 off, which is not not
That's a good deal.
nothing.
This is a
Yeah,
reminder too, by the way. Like, yeah, if you're in college, I don't think it typically hits high schools or things like that. But if you're in
right, right.
college, your IT department
Used
likely has like equipment that they show like this is how you get a discount on this. Because when I was in IT, like I had to like shout at kids, "Hey, we can get you Microsoft Office cheaper." We were selling
right.
Microsoft Office for $10, and I had a whole pile in my box. And I just had to like force kids to come get it. You
Mhm,
can get discounts. Keep an eye on those things. Yeah.
mhm. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's, like, a lot to say about how much these things cost,
Mhm.
and also the fact that that's the main thing for me to say about the MacBook that just went
Great.
out the MacBook Air. Yeah, it's not exciting, but that's not a problem, right? Like if there's not a lot of
They're
changes,
just
but
they're just so good. Like I get that, yeah, it's not exciting because not much of it's new, but it's also like, man, I don't think everybody sees like what the PC makers are doing out there, and it is
oh
sometimes
god.
rough. It is sometimes like,
$1,200 for a Snapdragon laptop? Ugh.
well, I mean, you can spend $2,000 for a
I know
Snapdragon
1,200 is
laptop
on the
now,
low
Sherlin.
end. That's what I mean. Like,
But yeah,
yeah.
I just reviewed the Zenbook A14, which is a really cool laptop that tried to be a MacBook killer, but you always see compromises whenever somebody comes
Mhm.
at Apple, right? Like, so right now, the MacBook Air, the 13-inch, which is actually close to a 14-inch screen, weighs 2.7 pounds, has a pretty decent power, price is not bad for what it is.
Yeah.
So Asus comes in, it's like, okay, we can make this a half pound lighter. LG does it too with their Gram machines. I don't like those because those have always been slow and cheap feeling.
Mm.
But for Asus to do that half pound, they had to put in a really low power chip, and it just
Mhm.
benchmarked really low. So I don't know why you would get that versus
Mhm.
just a MacBook Air. The only thing I think stopping people at this point is like, yeah, not everybody knows how to use Macs. That is still a
So
thing. Yeah.
so yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of, I mean, look, one of the cons you put in your review was like it's still a challenge to learn Mac from Windows. And I almost was like when I was looking at that con, Devindra, I was like, should we be listing that as a con? Like, isn't that
It
kind of for granted? But like there is something to be said about like the fact that we're all moving to like ARM-based architecture
mhm.
and Apple is a superior one in this case, and that might convince some Windows people to switch. And in that case, it is a huge pain in the butt. But
It's a pain in the
remember
butt.
last week when I was like
Yeah.
complaining? Okay, I am
Mhm.
very sad to announce
Uh-huh.
uh, that I have discovered two things I prefer on MacBooks than Windows PCs.
Oh, here, let's hear it.
One is not super surprising or new. I think the trackpads just now that I've gotten used to it is better. Like I
Yeah.
miss my three finger gestures and everything on Windows. At least
You
I
have
miss how they
those.
work. I
Yeah,
have those,
yeah.
but like it depends. In on the Mac OS, it's like full screen. Then yes, three
Mhm.
fingers is swiping between the instances of an app. But if not, then you have to rely on command, whatever.
I think you can
Um,
actually find third-party apps that also remap some of those for you, Sherlin, so, yeah, we
Right.
will
I
keep an eye
meant
out for
like
those.
I guess I meant like baked in the OS without me having
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
too
yeah.
much, right? Like Windows is really like baked in. You don't need to think about it. It just all works across all the
You are the only
anyway. That
person
was
I've
yeah.
heard, Sherlin, who has ever talked about multi-finger gestures
Yes.
in
Listen,
Windows.
listen.
What?
That's how much of a power user I was, okay? Or am still. Here's the
Uh-huh.
thing. I use so many like I'm the person I might be the only person I know who uses the right control key as a shortcut like as part of my shortcuts
That
in
is
my workflow.
madness, and now you're
Yeah,
losing that
because
with the
it's so
Copilot
good
key.
when you're typing and you're like just
Mhm.
control backspace or control delete. The right one works really well for a control backspace.
Okay. Alright.
I'm right-handed too. Okay,
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
the
yeah.
second thing I've discovered that I like on a MacBook, at least the MacBook I have versus my Windows PC experience, man, that fingerprint sensor, sheesh, sheesh. It's listen, I'm the sort of person that washes my hands about 17 times a day, and they're
Mhm.
often like just a little bit moist or like just lotioned up. And like the
Uh-huh.
Windows PC will never recognize my finger in those instances, but the MacBook is like, you a little wet? I got you, fam. It's like, all right, I can handle a little
It's,
moisture.
I mean, it's the usability stuff. It's like when you bring up the trackpad, I'm like, Apple has had the glass trackpad, the whole thing,
Mhm.
like, they've locked that down for, I think, at least a decade now. Like, these trackpads have
Mhm.
been great. Everybody's been chasing it with, like, what do they call it? The precision, Windows precision, like,
Yes, precision. Yeah,
various
you're right.
companies
Or
are trying to
Dell
do that.
precision? I don't know. Yeah.
You can get close to it. You can get close to it in Windows, but it always comes down to the fact that it is a third-party company making the trackpad.
Yep.
It is
Yeah.
Microsoft producing the software. It is a PC laptop maker who's implementing all these things together,
Yeah.
and there's a discernible lag sometimes. So I feel like it
Mm.
just never feels as smooth on Windows. The other thing, Sherlin, like if you lean more on Macs, you'll learn is that I think the standby times are also rock solid. Like when you close the lid,
Okay,
you can
different
leave
for
that thing
me.
in
No,
your bag for like a
different.
while. Really.
Different. The ones I've been using so that's one drawback of
Mhm.
MacBook the one at least the one I have, which I believe is an M1 MacBook Pro, by the way.
Mhm.
It is it just it's sapping battery while lid is closed. So the
That is
thing I don't
weird. Mhm.
That is weird, which might be like specific to this machine. Which, by the way, I love that we're like, okay, so for the last
Yeah,
two
yeah.
weeks, like various Mac users on our team have had to be my tech support. I've been yelling into various voids on Slack, just being very angry, and I've been like, why do I have to press three buttons to do one screenshot, or like, why do I have to like, so I've learned a few things along the way that
Mhm.
have made me a lot less angry as a person. Number one,
You
maybe.
learn. You learn
Uh,
things. Listen, my and it's sometimes it's just what you know, and it's hard to learn new things, which is why I listed that as a con.
True.
Like I bought the
Yeah.
MacBook Air, the one of the cheaper, the discounted ones over the holidays for my wife, and she knows how to use computers, but she is so hardcore Windows, right? So it's like I'm giving
Yeah.
her a Mac, and it's taken her time just to get
I'm surprised she
comfortable.
hasn't been like, "You gave me a Mac, you're sleeping on the couch." Like,
Well, there's some of that. I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
well, this is so much faster than that Dell laptop that I got her a couple of years ago.
Was
That
it
Dell
XPS?
laptop,
Okay.
yeah, it is an XPS,
Yeah.
and it is not like Dell laptops also don't last for that long. Like after 2, 3 years, you will start to feel the build issues and stuff. But it's just
Mm,
one of those things. I feel like this is the point where it's like somebody wants to buy a laptop, you really should consider jumping to Mac if you haven't yet. It's less a problem, I think, for the younger generation, like for kids going in. A lot of
yeah.
people are exposed to Macs in many different scenarios,
Ca
but a
yeah.
lot of people
I
aren't
have to
as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
I one last thing that I will say that is, like, a bit off topic is that, like, I was, chatting with a friend in the gym, and they're,
Hmm.
like, young, like, Gen Z, like, 23, right?
Yeah.
And they were like I was like, "Oh, so, like, what tips do you need to learn about tech, blah, blah, blah," trying to, like, source ideas for, like,
Yeah.
any stories we can write. And they were like, "I would love to learn how to create a folder on my MacBook." And I was like,
Yeah. Just basic stuff.
So this is
Basic stuff.
wait, this is like getting to the idea of like anyone
Ki
younger than what? Like
They don't know
n-
file
that same
structures.
story that
born
Verge
yeah, born after
published
like
a while ago, yeah.
1997 can't use a
Mhm.
file directory. All they know is
I have seen
touchpad and lie.
so many examples of this, and I think, like, there are a lot of TikTokers out there who are like, life is hard for millennials," and I actually think, like, some of it is just, like, whinging, but some of it is, like, it is true. Like, you gotta be tech support for your parents, for your boomer parents who
And
don't understand the
also
technology, and also tech support for the young kids, the
I
iPad
mean, we
yeah.
were just
generation who
talking about this like 2 episodes
yeah.
ago. We're stuck between the boomers and the iPad babies.
Basically. So, sorry if that is a repeat topic, but I keep seeing examples of this. Anyway, MacBook Air, good computer. Learn Macs. I think you'll be better off, especially if you have an iPhone. If you have an iPad, I don't want to sound like an Apple shill. Like there are still so many good uses of Windows. I'm sitting here in
Yeah.
front of a
I
Windows
love a
desktop.
PC, yeah.
I love a PC. I spent the last day, like jamming my fingers into motherboard stuff and plugging in hardware because I love having that ability to build a
Mm.
computer. And I showed it to my daughter. I was like, This is what an open computer looks like." She's like, "Can you build me one? And also, can I play
Aw.
Minecraft on it?" That was her first thing. I was like, "Yes,
Aw.
actually, you could play the best Minecraft. You could play realistic shaders." Like we see these videos sometimes where people are playing with like extremely hardcore shaders on Minecraft using like crazy video cards. It
Yeah.
looks like you're playing in real life. So she
Yeah.
wants in on that. So we're gonna be gaming side by side, not too long from now. But that's the MacBook
Nice.
Air M4. It's pretty good. But also, if you want a cheaper MacBook Air, look out for deals. I would not go down to the M1 just because that design was basically a decade old when
Mhm.
when they like gave up on it, when they upgrade to the M2. So the M2 one, the M3 one, you will see discounts on those. Look at refurbished sellers. Be careful on eBay and stuff. But yeah, another good one for Apple. And we also see other upgrades that they announced. The Mac Studio, which now has the M4 Max chip and the M3 Ultra, which is a really
Mhm.
interesting twist that they did there. Steve Dent did that review for us, and I really want Steve to review it because he is a video guy. He produces his own
Yeah.
videos. He was able to put like 8K workflows on this thing and gave us some like really good insight into like how powerful it is versus his M3 Pro MacBooks, and also some scores we had from the M2 the previous Mac Studio.
M2 Ultra? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was the M2 Ultra, yeah, and I think the M3
The M3
Max?
Ultra
Mhm.
oh, M3 Max. Yeah, yeah, I know
Yeah,
'cause the
from
M3
last
Ultra
year.
is the new chip. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Also very confusing, and Nate Ingram reviewed the new iPad Air, which is it's an iPad, guys. It's
Yeah,
it's a
we
new
talked
it's
about that last week.
I
yeah.
real
Yeah,
good.
well, we talked about the news last week. The
Hmm.
review went up on Monday, and the
Yes.
Venture's review went up Tuesday. Steve's review went up yesterday, I believe. Did I get it up yesterday? I think so. It's all
Yeah,
melting into one
that was
big
yesterday.
fondue. I This week has been Apple fondue week for me, but this week there's one more Apple review that is coming from us. At least we're doing some longer term reviews,
Oh, okay.
and also recontextualizing some products. So today, and the rest of this week, you'll see some like reviews of maybe some older Apple products, but with the lens of like, now that I've spent a long time with this, is it better than the experience out of the box, or now that it's 2025, is this still worth a good buy, like this 2 or 3 year old product that Apple is still selling? So it's been a bit of an Apple mixture for me. Like, I've been in
Hmm.
an Apple jam. Which is why if I get my dates of published wrong, I apologize. But
It's
yeah,
it was supposed to be all good news for Apple, but something weird did happen last week
mhm,
after we basically after we recorded on Friday. Apple sneakily like just put out little bit of a negative news. They
mm,
shared a statement with John Gruber at Daring Fireball, and I think a couple other places. I think Reuters got this statement too, basically saying,
mm,
"Hey, that Siri we showed you all, that really cool Siri that could like read your email and also give you contextualized information and stuff. They showed it off at WWDC. That's going to take a while."
mhm,
And the specific quote is, "We have also been working on a more personalized Siri, giving you more awareness of your personal context, as well as the ability to take action for you within and across your apps. It's going to take us longer than we thought to deliver on these features, and we anticipate them rolling out in the coming year." And there have been a lot of discussions about this. Like, first of all, Apple giving people an actual statement on the record, because normally when you
mhm,
talk to Apple, they're like, "Here is a gun to your head. You can't say that Apple told you this. You can't say the names of anybody." That's just how they work, and it sucks. I hate talking to companies that way. They give an on the record statement to Gruber, who is a very
mm,
well-known Apple fan, Apple commentator. He has actually run podcasts at and meetings at Apple's campus during WWDC. So like he is fully like, I don't know, working together with the company. But he is also somebody that I've seen has taken um, he seems really offended by this news almost. Like the fact that Apple seemingly lied to us. They showed us a shiny new version of Siri. They never actually demoed it at WWDC
mhm,
last year, Sherlyn, and that is notable that we only saw it on the video. We never sometimes Apple brings us to rooms and like, here is somebody demoing this technology. That's how we saw the initial Apple Intelligence features showed off. They never did that for the Siri. That's probably a bad sign. Like if Apple can't do that at WWDC, they're probably a long way off from actually shipping that.
mm.
And yeah, is this a
I
sign that Apple is failing, Sherlyn?
I don't know, right? Like, I
Hmm.
think uh Siri has like historically been one of the, oh no, my phone just
Oh no.
reacted, but thankfully didn't try to respond to me saying the hot word. Anyway, Apple's assistant has historically been one of the like less smart ones, right? Between when I used to switch between Android and Apple more often,
Hmm.
I would notice like the Google version was a lot smarter, at least in the early days of the assistant wars. And then now we're at a point where like, Google's so far ahead with Gemini, right? And the S assistant is barely there and can't even get off the ground. I don't know that Apple is doomed per se. I think Apple is clearly going to have to tap the help of like OpenAI or like Google, as
Which
has
they're
done in the
doing.
past with
Yeah.
which they've done with things like visual intelligence and so on. But like, I mean, it's clear, and I feel as if the visual intelligence thing, the fact that they've integrated ChatGPT and Gemini or Google search within the visual intelligence feature is actually a tacit like
Hmm.
acknowledgement that we need to make this feature available, and yet we don't have the algorithms or software that and the engineering behind it yet. And so we're going to partner with these people who are obviously so much better at it than we are. And they haven't come out and said it, but it is like basically that. I will
Yeah.
point out, and one thing that I wanted to say when I saw that this topic was one of our on our list. Um
Hmm.
Alexa Plus, for example. Oh crap. Hey
It's
everybody,
it's fine.
mute
It's
your
fine.
speakers.
Yeah.
Um Amazon's A Word Plus is was announced month. We talked about it and it's coming, and it was said that it would be available this month.
Mhm.
I saw recently on my Amazon app that now I am able to waitlist, right?
Okay.
Join the waitlist to test it out. So to be clear though, because someone in the chat this morning asked whether A Word Plus is that much better. To be extremely clear, again, we never saw this new A Word assistant, Amazon assistant for ourselves. We watched a lot of canned rehearsed demos. We
But
saw a
they at
lot of
least demoed it live, and Apple
they
didn't even do
demoed
that
it
for this thing. Yeah.
purportedly live, right? And
It was screwing
everything
up. Yeah, yeah.
it was still screwing up on the stage especially. So
Yeah.
it seemed live and it was, taking pictures of the audience and I saw myself in the picture and therefore it was able to
Mhm.
still, describe the audience based on what appeared
Yeah.
to be including me in it, right? So okay. Um so far I don't know that there's that much better of an assistant out there that is not purely driven by something like an open AI, like a GPT-O or like a ChatGPT
There is
or
nothing.
Gemini.
There's
Yeah.
like, app Microsoft is trying to do that with Copilot, but Copilot is not even there either. And I think, like, so yeah, you're bringing up the fact that Siri has had issues for a long time, Sherlyn.
Yes.
It's hard it's actually easy to forget, like, when Steve Jobs, I think, first announced Siri, this was like a big thing. It was a big thing because,
Yeah.
like, the iPhone is getting essentially a smart helper that could do all
Yeah.
these things, but that was really early days in terms of, like, conversational assistance. So it could do really basic things, but it could only do so much, and that was even before the very idea of transformer models was even discovered. Like, we
Mm,
did not have that
mm,
milestone that led to Gemini and, ChatGPT and everything. So what we're talking about now is a newer version of Siri that is
mhm.
based on all this stuff that's powering
Yes.
GPT, and Gemini, and it just seems like Apple can't really do it yet, but also I don't think it's the worst news in the world, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
these companies probably needed to do this as well. Microsoft was so hardcore on teaming up with
Cortana?
OpenAI. They brought you
RIP.
yeah, they brought you to Seattle, Sherlyn. Like, you went there just to
Yeah,
see
I
them
went.
unveiled Bing Chat, and everyone's like,
Let's be
"Wait."
clear, they didn't bring me. They invited
Yes.
us and we paid our way, but
They
like,
pulled you there. They made you go there to go
mhm,
see it.
mhm.
And then Copilot happened, and then, like, Copilot was in Windows, and it's everywhere, and they were, like, so gung ho because they invested tens of billions of dollars in OpenAI to make that thing happen, and I feel like they were just so relentless, and what happened last year when they announced, the whole Copilot Plus initiative, but also stuff like Recall, where they were
Mm,
so excited to announce
gosh.
Recalls, like, "Look, we'll capture everything you're doing on your computer, we'll
The
remember everything."
instant backlash on that one.
The instant backlash, the fact that they didn't fully think about it, the fact that these very obvious security flaws were not even
Mm,
really well considered at the company, and I've had several conversations with Microsoft saying, like, "What the hell? How did you
mm.
guys not see this?" And they're like, we tested
Yeah.
recall. We
No,
have done a lot of this." No, I
in
don't think
my
so, guys.
opinion,
Yeah.
Microsoft has one of the worst cases of engineer brain with a lot
Yeah.
of their products. Their testing is very like tested on people who know how this works. So know exactly what the limits might
Mhm.
be and therefore have already like kind of
That's a good
restricted
point.
themselves based on that. So I
Mhm.
think Microsoft is one of the like the worst examples of that. Google also does that
Also.
to an extent. I think Google has learned in the past few years to broaden its testing, but and also Apple has less of that, but Apple then actually doesn't have enough engineer brain in my opinion because it's not pushing far enough sometimes with the solving problems, right? Either that
Yeah.
or Apple is considering something that its peers don't, which is it might be trying to be as useful as possible to as many people as possible,
Yep.
which is not a bad thing to do. And that is why you and I think
Mhm.
are in agreement that this delaying of the new smarter assistant it's not such a bad thing. Get it to a point where it works for like 99 or
Mhm.
90% of the population. The other thing that you're getting at, which like by the way, I love that we're having this debate about assistants because
Mhm.
clearly we're saying a lot and it's resonating also in chat. But the one of the things that Amazon's executives said at that event
Mhm.
about why they want to push towards this smarter assistant or this more natural language style with talking and interacting with the assistants is this idea that like people have had to learn how to talk to their speaker, how
Yes.
to talk to their
Yes.
phone. And they didn't like that. And I'm like, well, now that I've spent 10 years learning how to talk to, a word, it's you're telling me how to like relearn or unlearn that stuff, it's a little bit annoying. Why not make something that just works the way I guess I think that's the goal. They want to make it work
Mhm.
the way you want it to, but it's
We
not.
wanna
Now you
talk to a
can
Star Trek
finally
computer.
talk to it like a person, like you
Yes.
wanted to. Def was about to say, like, you can talk
Yes.
to it like Star Trek.
Well, also, like, it's a conversation where you're not, like, constantly issuing commands. The thing with current, assistants is that you have to it's essentially you're programming a computer, right? "Do this for me," and you get a response. It's command response and not conversation, and I think we want the conversation. When I've tested, GPT stuff and even some Copilot, when you can actually talk to it and have it back and forth, that's actually kinda nice.
Mhm.
To what we were really getting at here, I think, is that so many people rushed out with all these AI features. Google literally was caught flat-footed. Like, they rushed to the they had a London
That was
event,
my
right, to
favorite.
show off Gemini, and, like, that was a
Bard.
disaster. All these companies have been pushing,
Wasn't
like
Gemini renamed from something
it
also?
was Bard. It
It
was
was
Bard
Bard.
back
Yeah,
then.
it was Bard, that's right.
But all these companies have essentially rushed everything out the door to try to compete with whatever they assume OpenAI has already hit. And some of that stuff is impressive. It's cool that we can talk to this thing and it can recall all this information. It's cool that it can create documents, images, and video and whatnot. But functionally, how it's actually making your life better. Sherlyn, when we were at WWDC, I think that was one thing we were saying, like, Apple's focused on these features that will actually make your life maybe just a little easier.
Yeah.
Stuff like the writing assistant stuff within your apps.
Right.
Technically, the notification summaries were a part of that too, which
Yeah.
was kind of a mess for them, actually. Like, they got in trouble with bad summaries. They got in trouble with, like, them rewriting headlines and stuff. But when it's not terrible, I
Mm.
actually do appreciate the fact that it does compact a lot of different notifications into, like, a small thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if Apple takes another year or so to, like, make the Siri thing work good,
Yeah.
I think that is ultimately a good thing. But what happens is right now, the perceived problem is that, "Oh, you're not hot. You're not hot. Like, you're behind on
Right.
AI. You're not as good as
Listen,
everybody," and I think that's wrong. Yeah.
I'm going to use Gen Z lingo here because I
Oh,
am so
no.
young.
Yeah.
Let them cook. Let them cook.
That's not
It's
Gen Z
okay.
lingo. That wasn't Gen Z lingo. Yeah.
Oh, not Gen Z lingo. So whatever lingo it
It
is,
is
Mhm.
most often
it's
used by
new
Gen
to
Z, let's
me.
be real.
And so okay, so it's okay to cook, right? Like I think the internet society agrees that it's okay to cook. We
Mhm.
just need to be patient.
Well, yeah, but in a lot of cases when they say that, it's like you're already doing something, you're already, like, showing the results of your work, so let them
Mhm.
keep going on showing the results of their
I
work,
feel like
and we
Actually
have
Apple has
not
done a bit of that
seen
preview.
mhm.
sort of,
I
um
think the way "let them cook" is usually used is, like, somebody's going off, right? And
yeah.
you don't know if it's gonna be good or bad. You're like, "Let's step back. Let's let them go." I actually feel like that philosophy actually applies more to what OpenAI and Microsoft is, and
Mhm.
it's like, let's just go. Let's go." The investor's like, "Yes, money. Here's AI. Do AI."
Oh my
They're
gosh,
like, "Let
Well,
them
yeah,
cook."
Lucky Dog
I mean
podcast in the chat is like, let them Tim cook.
yeah. I mean, and that gets to the idea of maybe let them cook in the sense of let them give themselves enough rope to hang themselves.
I guess.
Um, ed and because I think the synopsis, if we were to boil all of this down with some, AI brevity, the idea is that you only get one chance for your new assistant to be good. And if people can talk to it conversationally like they want to, especially if the most average user can do that, then they will continue using it. But if you need to talk to it in a specific way, if you need to talk to it like you're programming a computer or something, you're going to lose like some large percentage, probably 60% or more of people who of your users who would eventually end up like maybe loving this as it gets better. So
Listen,
if you
to
only get one chance for it to be good, then maybe keep it under wraps for a while.
I feel like that's it. Let's while we're in generations, let's quote millennial icon Eminem, because it really comes down to this: if you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Think about that. Think about that. Now that's gonna be in your head all day.
Mom
Uh,
spaghetti.
one shot. You got one shot, everybody, and I guess we'll see where this goes.
So I want to bring things back to the MacBook Air for just a second
Mhm. Mhm.
and kind of bring up like a audio flow chart or something for should you get a MacBook Air or should you get a MacBook Pro,
Hmm.
especially if you're a student, because we talked about how MacBook Airs are great for students. If you do not see yourself doing big computational work at all ever, so I'm talking about
Hmm.
English literature. I'm talking about like studio art, where most of the stuff you're doing is manipulating objects in the real world. Absolutely go off and like get a MacBook Air. It's going to be like everything you need
Hmm.
and more. However, if you are an interdisciplinary sort of like kind of interested in like computer art, maybe like using bigger AI models, or if you for some reason want to do some Beeple ass art,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
computer generated or something, you need the fans
You need
because
fans.
yeah,
Yeah. So the MacBook
eventually.
Air is fanless. It is just a little hot box, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. So if you are an interdisciplinary artist, if you're doing anything in like
Hmm.
Blender or Maya or anything like that,
Yep.
you need like heat dissipation really badly.
I think
If
that's
you're
basically it.
going to
Yeah.
be an engineering student, or if you're even kind of casually interested in eventually majoring in engineering,
Hmm.
um, and you're going to be doing SolidWorks or something, MacBook Pro is where you want to go, not the MacBook Air.
Yep. I feel like you would know it. You would know if you need these tools or not. This is more advice for like people going into college, people thinking about like what to buy ahead. You don't know like what your workflow is actually going to be. Something we're
I'm
thinking
thinking
about.
about parents who
Yeah.
don't quite know, like, everything that, like, all of the specs for these
I will
different
say this though.
machines. They just know that, like, the MacBook Air
Hmm.
is a bit cheaper, but it also has, like, the top level chip right now.
It's a bit cheaper, but it's also a lot less heavy. Like the lightness is a big.
Is it just me, or is can I not hear a thing from when Dev talks?
There was a hiccup, and now I can hear everyone. The chat or the, video just went dead for a second, but now it's back.
And Dev, I can't hear you anymore. Mm-hmm. Did,
Uh,
Can you guys hear me? Hello.
now I
yes.
can hear you. Yes.
Okay, let me switch back to my mic.
No. 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 It is weird. I'm just lip reading, by the way.
Hello. Hello.
I
Yes,
can
we can
hear
hear you
you.
now.
Yeah, but you're going to be hearing me from this thing, which is not as good. Let me
That's
just.
fine. Let's just keep the stream going.
I
Well,
will
recording.
say,
Um,
while you
you-
do that,
yeah, a
Kevin
little bit. Yeah.
says we received your email and we will address it.
All right. Let's
And we're
see.
dealing with
Because
the
also
sync. By
that
the way,
kills the audio too. Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, so it sounds like our audio went away as well, not
Yeah.
just yours.
But the stream is alive. The stream is alive.
Good.
That's the key. Let me try switching back to
Kevin
this mic.
says if you heard what I said, please leave a wavy emoji or something.
All right, can you guys hear this?
Yes, I can hear
I can
you
hear y'all.
now.
Let me. Ooh, Audacity is like, hey.
Okay, great. I see that Kevin says responded. So, I think people can hear us, and also to
Mhm.
be clear, Devindra is not using a MacBook right now.
Not using. I'm using a Windows computer, and this is. Literally just rebuilt this computer from scratch, and this is a brand new Windows install. But also, it's getting used to a lot of new devices, I guess, and sometimes
It's
Windows
very
does
good
this shit.
testing of these
Yeah.
cards and systems that you have.
Goodness
Yeah.
gracious.
Yep,
Okay, so let's bring
259.
this segment in for a landing and
Yeah, yeah. Let me
talk
save this
about
audio so you have good audio, Ben, because you
yes.
need that. And then I need to
I think for
Oh,
everyone else in the chat
mhm.
that's weighing in on the delay right now, it's just you're catching up to what happened, so it should smoothen out in a bit.
I'll do part one. And let me start a new recording. All right. Thank you for sticking with us, folks. Windows, how does it work? How does it work?
Mhm.
Okay, recording device. Okay. Hello, testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. If it does that again, then we'll carry on. But yeah, I'll bring in this segment for landing, and then we will just go. Does
Yep.
everything look okay on the stream, folks?
I think some people are still catching up to right
Okay.
now where we are, where it's smooth, but
Okay.
it seems like for the most part
Video
we're
looks
we
good.
okay.
OBS looks weird, so I'm just not gonna touch anything, but we're gonna keep
Okay.
going. Yeah.
If people are seeing this now, say like 79 on the chat. Um,
Let's say yeah.
although Kevin says that say win 97 FTW. Buddy 305 Love just said it's synced now.
Okay.
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
responding to what you had said, Ben. So let
Yep.
me let me
Yep.
just say this now. So I think your advice is pretty much right there, Ben. Like that's pretty much what we'd say. I will say though, like the thing about these M4 chips and Apple's chips in general is that they are really fast. Like they are really fast. So if you are a visual arts student who does not need to do like hardcore rendering, but you're just like drawing, like you just may want a 15-inch Air plus a Wacom tablet or something. You will get faster processing with a Pro for sure, but if you're a college student, you may also want to prioritize just having a lighter machine to walk around with. So I think that's where some of that comes in. Some of the complaints I have for my review still hit. The 60 hertz screen looks good, but I would like a faster refresh rate, and
Yeah.
that is
That's
something.
especially not good for art.
I mean, it's yeah. It's better to have something smoother for art for artwork. But yeah, if you bump up to the 14-inch MacBook Pro, which I've actually seen, that thing is normally 1599, I believe, but I've seen it on sale for like close to 1400. At that, if you bump up to that, you get more storage, I believe, too. But you get more ports, you get a higher refresh rate display, and I think for a lot of people, that will be a safer computer to last you your entire like college career or professional career or whatever. So that's the main thing to think about. Like the 14-inch MacBook Pro, don't be afraid of it, especially once you start adding hardware to the Air. That's where Apple gets you. You will spend $200 more to add more RAM or a bigger hard drive or something like that. And also worth pointing out, the 999 Air, the 13-inch, has fewer GPU cores. I believe it's 8 instead of 10. So that may also be a downside for some people. For if you're just writing, if you're just doing productivity stuff, you'll probably never even notice. So that's that. Good recommendations there, Ben. Anything else you want to add to this, Sherlyn?
No, I think we
Okay.
just have a lot of Apple products that we
We have a lot
review.
of Apple products. I mean, yeah. And also we talked about the Siri stuff. We will see where this lands. Like we're gonna follow this story, folks. I do feel like this is one of those things, like it is a telling thing. I think Apple has lost a lot of trust, which is something John Gruber has been saying. Like typically we trust that if Apple says something at WWDC, we're like, okay, yeah, they will figure this out in time, right? And this was an example where they showed it on a video. They never demonstrated it live, and I think we never really had a sense that if they could actually do this. So I think after this, like there's justification to like push Apple harder around this stuff. I really do hate sometimes talking to Apple reps because they are so media trained where like you ask them a question and what they give you is literally, here is the copy from the thing you just read. Yes, I will ask a specific question like, "Oh, how did you come up with this feature?" They're like, "This is the greatest feature in the world, and everything I just told you, I'm just gonna repeat back." And it's not
There is
super
no
helpful.
war in Bossing Say.
There's no war embossing say, tariffs are helping the economy. I mean, we just saw that today. So, yeah, we're gonna push Apple harder. This is certainly I think it's maybe troubling news, but also I don't mind if people delay AI features, get it good rather than, announcing it and having it fail completely. So there's that. Let's move on to some other news. Briefly, we saw some rumors coming out of Microsoft and around Xbox stuff. Windows Central reports that the Xbox handheld that has been talked about and discussed could come at the end of the year, and it likely won't be built by Microsoft, which is actually fine because we've spent the last few CESs looking at all the portable gaming hardware from Asus and everybody else. It could be a company like Asus building whatever the Xbox handheld is. I actually don't think that's a bad idea. Like a handheld at a decent price that has access to Game Pass is a really compelling product. The more interesting thing that Jez Corden over at Windows Central reported is that their next generation consoles are targeted for 2027, which is only 2 years away. Goddamn. 2027, new consoles that would feel I think the thing is like they would feel more like Windows PCs.
Ugh.
And if you remember what I said, I think it was last year, I think when Jess was on here and we were discussing whatever the future of the Xbox was, I was saying just make it a Windows box, man. Just make a small Windows mini PC that you put to your TV. And the people who don't need that can bring it to a monitor and play games on their
Mhm.
monitor, but it's just a Windows box. Like, let's stop overthinking all the Xbox stuff they had to do for consoles because they were never very good at it. Microsoft has failed more often than not when it comes to Xbox stuff. The original Xbox burned billions of dollars to get that thing. That was a failure. The Xbox 360 succeeded because they had a good strategy. They did a lot of things earlier, but the Xbox One, that whole platform, the everything now, the Series X, it's the same problems over and over again where Microsoft is facing against Sony and Nintendo. Sony, who is so good at the closed console market and knows how to produce killer games. Nintendo, who is just like off in La La Land, doing whatever, like they don't need to even play this game at all. Nintendo can just survive selling Zelda and Mario with unique hardware all the time. And Microsoft, I think it's taken Microsoft a long time to realize we make PC software. Maybe we should
Mm.
be selling people PCs. And the
Yeah.
consoles themselves right now are running AMD CPUs, they're running AMD GPUs, they're essentially computers. So I feel like the next logical step would be here's an Xbox handheld that's great for a lot of people, and maybe you can dock it. Here's a powerful $500 to $600 mini desktop that can sit by your TV. You'll have an Xbox interface to play the games you're used to, but also it's a Windows box. So let it run Steam. Let it give you full access to Game Pass. Like, I wonder if Microsoft is brave enough to do something like that because you give people an easy way to put Steam on their TVs. Like, the hardcore players will love that. I'm actually thinking about, I have some like spare PC hardware now. I'm like, I should just put, rather than like string a 100-foot HDMI cable from my office to my TV or projector, should just build a little box because all I need is 4K at 60 hertz, if that, really, to power a TV thing. And I think that's going to be a compelling option for a lot of people. I don't know, Trillin, Ben, any thoughts on this?
So,
Just
Dev,
make,
can you
yeah.
give me like a capsule history, like 5 sentences or less, about
Mhm.
why we're seeing so many new Windows gaming handhelds now?
I mean, the history is the hardware got good. The portable hardware got good enough that we could do this, and
But is it the batteries? Is it the
it's everything.
video
It's the
stuff?
chip. It's
Is
the
it the process?
GPUs.
Okay.
It's the chips. It's the GPUs. It's the fact that Nintendo has been writing Switch hardware since 2017, like 2016 era Switch hardware is ancient, but it can play a game like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And people, it's selling. It's still selling a ton. People are buying those games. I think we're at the point where the graphics rat race is just like not everybody needs it, right? I think few people can really see the difference between a PlayStation 5 game and a PlayStation 4 game. So, okay, we're scaling back. Now you can do some pretty good gaming on a handheld form. Maybe the games themselves are less demanding, but the hardware has gotten there. Nintendo kind of proved that. Even Sony themselves kind of proved that with the PlayStation Vita, which was a great piece of hardware that they gave up on because the ecosystem wasn't fully there for it. But yeah, there are rumors that Sony's going to go back to it as well. Handheld gaming hardware is great and it's better than ever because of all the advancements we've made in CPUs and GPUs and
Mhm.
display technology and everything. Yeah.
I mean,
So
we
there's
saw the Lenovo Legion
Mhm.
Go at
Yeah.
CES. That one's coming out with SteamOS later this year,
Mhm.
and we've seen a proliferation of Windows gaming handhelds. Aya Neo and is one of the like makers of many of them, but there's others. Like I'm pretty sure Ace, not Ace, is it the ROG Ally X that is a Windows
Yeah.
one?
ROG Ally is
Lots of people are
Windows,
making these Windows handhelds,
and
and
the
I think
experience isn't great. People don't like raw
exactly. I was gonna
Windows.
say
Yeah.
the problem is the software. The
Mhm.
problem has always been it's such a pain in the ass to use
Mhm.
Windows OS on such a tiny little screen that's a touch screen, which we've lamented for years that just Windows doesn't work
Yes.
as a touchscreen
It
interface.
doesn't. And
And that is the problem.
this may be like, I feel like this is warning signs, not just Microsoft go all in on AI. Hey, Microsoft, people want to play games
Yeah.
on using your platform in this form factor. Do something about it. Like chase
Yep.
that. Make like let's strip Windows down to the point where we can make it
Make
easier
a
to work with.
version. Yeah, make a
I don't
version
I
for
don't
this thing.
I don't trust them. I don't trust them trolling
I
with
don't
every version
either.
of Windows.
That's the thing. When you
So
ask
I'm
me
just
my
like,
thoughts and
yeah,
yeah, when you ask me my thoughts about this is what I wanted to say, right? Which is that
I hear
gaming
you.
handhelds we've seen them. It's not like we haven't seen them in Windows
Yeah.
gaming handhelds by third parties, and for Microsoft to try to do this, it would need to see what Valve is doing and try
Yeah.
to do better. I think that's
Just
what's
make
going to
Windows
happen.
itself like, I think just make Windows itself better. I don't trust Microsoft to make, like, an
Yes.
offshoot thing because whenever they've done, like, Windows RT or, like, was it I think the 11X or 10X or whatever, like, they were considering for foldables or something, like, they're whenever they start to offshoot Windows, like, it just becomes a mess. Just give us a box, man. Consoles are just PCs now. Like, give us a box, let people do what they want with them, and I think, like, that would actually be a really compelling thing for a lot of
Mhm.
people, especially if you just sell it as like, "Hey, here's a Game Pass box. You pay $30, $40 a month. We will give you a box that will sit by your
Right.
TV, and it just plays Game Pass things." I don't know. That could be a solution there. I would love to know what you folks think. Podcastinggadget.com. We've got a lot of news to run through. We're just gonna blow through some of the stuff, some
Yeah.
of which is disheartening, and some of which is just like, yeah, interesting to point out here. There have been a couple things happening with Tesla. Like there have been widespread protests around the country. I love that Alex Winter of Bill and Ted fame is now like one of the most visible antagonists against Tesla. Like he has been leading the charge on protests, I think, around Los Angeles. There's like widespread consumer reaction to this protesting Teslas because of what Elon Musk is doing to the American government, to his cuts, to his like chainsaw antics. And as part of that, so apparently, like one way to counteract that is Elon Musk and Donald Trump turned the White House into a Tesla dealership,
Jeez.
and Donald Trump's bought a Tesla on the lawn
The
of the
red
White
one, right?
House. I don't know, sure, whatever. He's never going to
I
drive
saw
that.
the red one.
But
Yeah.
he bought a Tesla. What was the quote? Like, everything's computer.
Yeah.
He sits
Oh,
down,
God,
everything's
yeah.
computer.
Yeah, he's like, "Wow, everything is computer." But I pointed out
Yes.
that the European New Car Assessment Program actually wants things to be less computer if
You shouldn't be
you
all
want
computer.
the maximum, like, safety rating from them, and it totally makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I have never rented a Tesla. I've always kind of wanted to rent a EV.
Mhm.
Actually, when I was in SF last week, I happened to walk by a Rivian dealership. This is
Mhm.
my first time ever seeing a Rivian dealership, and I was like,
Really?
"I need to
Yeah.
go in. I need to, like, touch this car," and n it has the same problem. Big screen, no
Mhm.
button.
No button. I hate it. I hate
There
it.
is
Give
a
me buttons.
small margin for error if I want to, like, change a setting or something,
Mhm.
um, where in every other car on the market, all of the internal combustion cars, I can just kind of randomly feel around, like, on the
Mhm.
console area and figure out what I need to press
Well,
just by the shape of the button.
you could build muscle memory based on button placement and shape and everything, and you cannot do
Yes.
that with the touchscreen. I think Volkswagen is saying now like they're going to go back to at least buttons for climate controls, and I think everyone's seeing the folly of just like, hey, it's a big ass tablet. It was cool when Tesla first did it in the early 2010s because nobody was doing that, but I think the usability problems became evident. Anyway, I don't wanna laugh too much at everything's computer, like, it has become a bit memeish, but also, like, that whole situation is such a disgusting, uh, scenario where, yeah, of course, Donald Trump is basically acting like a used car salesman right now, right down to having, like, sales pitch notes on his notes, just to
There
refer
was
back to.
a, like, what was it? White House press pool photographer took a picture of the
Yeah.
papers he was holding,
I love
and
that
it was
everybody does that.
literally just like a list of
Mhm.
Tesla specs.
And it's easy to do that too. Like, I feel like that's a photographer's duty now because we all know that Donald Trump needs large typeface notes, so it's very easy to zoom in and get a picture of exactly what he's holding.
Yeah.
But I think that is, that's him directly helping Elon Musk and trying to give Tesla a boost, but also a sign that the protests are working. There's so many other things too. You had brought up, Ben, Doge reportedly has a chatbot that's going to automate some government tasks, and I feel like that is such it cuts to the core of like how dumb and broken this whole efficiency seeking initiative is. Like they want to offload stuff to AI. We've spent the last hour talking about how dog shit a lot of AI is. You can't do that. It's never going to work. So I feel like that's just never going to work out for them. But yeah, that's our check in
Also,
into
the
exactly what's happening
government
here.
the important thing about the government is that it's stable. When people say,
Mhm.
like, what does the government do for me? It provides the like bureaucratic air you breathe.
Mhm.
Like, it allows your grandparents to continue receiving their social security checks on time. There was just someone testifying in front of Congress saying that social security could, not will, but there is a possibility that it could
Mhm.
miss checks for the first time in its history because of the cuts that Musk is doing. So,
That's yeah. That plus tariff stuff, that's gonna be fun, folks. So we're gonna keep an eye on this. Like the tariff stuff will also directly involve the technology industry and consumers and what you can buy and how much it's gonna cost. So I would love to have like a discussion with that with somebody who knows economics and somebody who can really explain a
Yes.
lot of this. But it is outlook not so great, folks. So, briefly mentioning researchers also are saying that Musk's spin, there was a story about X being down for I think a day or so. Researchers
Like
are not
over the
buying.
weekend on Monday or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
researchers are not buying his explanation that it was a cyber attack, so there'll be more to see there. There is a book coming out from a former Facebook executive, Sarah Wynne Williams. She's been written up by the New York Times and elsewhere, talking about like just how kind of disgusting Facebook is at the
Hmm.
corporate level, at the executive level,
And the
and now
courting of China.
apparently,
Yeah.
yeah, and now apparently Meta is trying to stop sales of that book. So that's a good look. That's a clear sign
Oh,
that
they
you've done
and they
nothing wrong.
scored a victory last night, right?
Yeah,
Like yesterday. So that's what the development is. We A discovered that Meta was trying to stop them, but B that this past and it's just a funny story. I
I would
read
like,
the
yeah,
arbitration thing. It
I
was
would
really funny
love
to me.
Meta to look up the Streisand effect and to see what's gonna happen now, folks. Like,
Yep, exactly.
literally, the
Like
people who are
didn't
gonna
know about
know
this
this
book
book.
before, but now everyone's talking about it. It's
Yeah,
great.
the book Meta doesn't want you to read. That's great. Let's move on to some stuff from around and gadgets. Some great coverage this week. Mr. Sam Rutherford, got to play with the Ninja Swirl by Creamy. He calls it the ultimate home ice cream maker. This thing looks beautiful. So
Mm. Well, the
I'd
ice
still look
cream
at
looks
that.
beautiful.
The ice cream looks beautiful. I have one of the Ninja dual toaster ovens, Sherlyn. Let me tell you,
Nice.
I hesitate to recommend a gadget to Sherlyn that could potentially catch fire or cause things to catch fire.
Uh,
But a toaster oven is key.
does this
If you
have
want
a danger?
this one, any of these things can catch fire. But the toaster oven is key. I'm gonna write that up at some point too. But it's two compartments. Like you can cook stuff on the top
Oh
and
yeah,
cook
yeah,
stuff on the
yeah.
bottom. I've made whole dinners for our entire family just on that little device, so that's great.
Yeah.
Love Ninja stuff. And
it's
also
also
Mr.
really funny how, like, the Ninja Creamy is probably a really desired review among Engadget staff. Like, everybody outside of the tech journalism space is
Yeah.
like, "Oh, wow, you get to touch, like, all the new tech. That's gotta be so cool." People inside Engadget are like, "You get to make ice cream for work? That's
You get to make ice
awesome."
cream. Sam also loves the kitchen gadgets, so I love that he gets to play with those. Mr. Daniel Cooper also loves routers. He likes playing with routers. So he reviewed the Eero Pro 7, which kind of middling. Like he says, good performance and everything, but Eero, which is owned by Amazon, right?
Mhm.
They are trying to keep a lot of basic features behind the monthly subscription. And to me, that seems like a bad thing for a
It
router.
is
I don't
really
want to pay a
silly
yeah.
to it was hard for me when editing this to like, "Hey, can you bring up a comparison that like a company that
Mhm.
doesn't do this, that doesn't charge for all these fairly basic features?"
Everyone.
And the tricky thing is that Wi-Fi 7 routers aren't prevalent yet. It's not like you can just pick up the same exact
Mhm.
version or counterpart from Google or TP-Link or Netgear, right? But
Yeah.
because Wi-Fi 7 again is not something and if they have made a Wi-Fi 7 router, it's a flagship router. So it's got bells and whistles that bring
Mhm.
the cost all the way up to like $1,000 maybe. So it was hard um to be like, oh, this is not justified. But no matter what, I think we can all agree that asking you to pay a subscription for basic features like parental controls
I
on your
hate it.
own network is ridiculous. And so you'll see that in Dan's review.
I hate it. I totally hate it. Let me see here. Do we wanna do the question that came in, Sherlyn, or do you wanna save that for next week?
Let's save
How
that for
relevant?
next week, Kevin. It was a very good
Thank you so
question,
much,
though.
Kevin.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much,
Yeah,
Kevin. Thank you. We
everybody
are
else
running
send us
long.
more questions so we can do just a big Engadget mailbag. We do
Ideally,
that
not in the middle of recording.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do that sometimes, and we would really like it to happen, at least every other week or so.
Thank you so much, folks. Okay. let's move on to what we're working on. Yeah, I'm testing the Ryzen 9950 X3D chip. So that is fun, running benchmarks and doing some more game testing on this thing. And hopefully that's not the cause of like our stream hiccuping just now. And also I did
Right?
Twit this week. I did This Week in Tech. The episode's called Chatting with Mr. Babyman, which was just that was a line from something we were talking about. Mr. Babyman used to be the top dig user, and I am currently in a group chat
Oh.
with him.
I
So
remember
you
that.
remember him. So I talk to Mr. Babyman every day. Chat with Mr. Babyman every day, and it's great. He's a good dude. Sherlyn, anything you want to mention?
I mean, I'm digging myself out of the pile of Apple reviews and other types of
Hmm.
coverage. Next week, we've got some interesting events to look out for. Devindra, I know you're on board to live blog GTC for us, so that's
Hmm.
exciting. And then yeah, I'll be on another podcast this week as well. I don't know when it's coming out, so I'm not going to say what it is yet. But once
Okay.
I do know, I'll let you all know.
Keep an eye out on Sherlyn's socials, on Blue Sky,
Yes,
and
exactly.
wherever's. Any pop culture picks you want to talk about, Sherlyn?
I don't know if it's pop culture, but I do
Mm-hmm.
want to shout out this app called Finch that our
Uh-huh.
Cheyenne McDonald has also written a story about for Engadget. And I actually discovered this app when she filed like her draft of it maybe about 2 weeks ago. Um, and I've been using it since. So it's been 15 days. I got my like 15-day streak of using
Mm-hmm.
the app notification today. It is a self-care, like a mental health based app where basically by taking care of yourself, you are also taking care of this pet bird or whatever animal is really cute. And it's helped me slowly regain some structure in my life
Nice, nice.
and in a way that like feels non-pressurizing. I love also that the subreddit of Finch users has got just the best vibes. Everyone's very supportive. It's no pressure. It's really like it's designed for people who, like tasks that you can complete are as simple as getting out of bed each day if you want
Mm-hmm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
and you can reward yourself for getting out of bed. You can reward yourself for washing your face, brushing your teeth, drinking water. It's really nice, and I actually recommended it to my friend for their kid, a preteen kid. I think you need to be like age 6 and up to be able to really reap any sort of use from this, but it is such a great, like, thoughtful little app designed by two people who were like college buddies who really wanted to just help support each other. It's not very corporate and doesn't feel very money grabby, which is nice too.
Nice.
So, A, check out Cheyenne's piece about it for more information on Engadget, and then B, Finch, an app. I really quite enjoy it.
I
Awesome.
saw that on the site and I was like, Sherlyn is gonna love this. So nice to have some confirmation of that.
It's that sounds it's like they've gamified Tamagotchi, but also made it more self-care.
Exactly.
You
Maybe
are the
it's
Yes.
Tamagotchi.
It's aren't we all? That's that life. That's the story of life, folks. All right, thank you for that, Sherlyn. I need to check that out
Mhm.
too. I want to
Yeah.
shout out, like I am catching up on Severance and it is very good this season,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm hoping to have time to write something about it by the finale, which I think is a couple of weeks from now, or maybe
Yes.
next week. It's coming
Yes.
soon. So a lot is happening in that show. I love how it's building on the themes of season one, but also not afraid to be weird, not afraid to be like very David Lynchian at times too. Like we've lost David Lynch, but like his spirit will live on in projects like this. So
Mm.
kind of love that. Also want to shout out Mickey 17, the new film from Bong Joon-ho, who is one of my favorite
Yes.
working directors right now. Robert Pattinson, multiple Robert Pattinsons
That
dying over and over
accent,
again.
though, I cannot, sorry.
I mean, he does funny voice. Like everything he does
Yeah.
now is like if it's Batman or whatever, he will do funny
Yes,
voice.
true.
And I think you should check it out, Sherlyn, because it's definitely like
Yeah, I definitely
zany sci-fi
yeah.
stuff, but it's also in a very similar way to Severance. It is ultimately about labor and the way that capital destroys the value
Mhm.
of labor, and the rich like will always take advantage of people. And I think it's a really fun, funny movie. Maybe it runs a little too long, but it's Bong Joon-ho doing like satire with sci-fi in sci-fi, and I
I
just
love
kind of
that.
love that. I love
Yeah.
him, love Snowpiercer, the host, pretty much everything
Yes.
Bong Joon-ho has done, but when he gets to be like full zany,
Mhm.
that's like my zone. I kind of love that. So I don't
Mhm.
love this as much as Snowpiercer, but it's still very good. If you can see it in theaters,
Okay.
definitely check it out. That's Mickey 17 by Bong Joon-ho.
I'll do our outro and see if we can
Mhm.
squeeze in a few minutes of
Sure.
audience, chat time. Alright. Well, that's it for this episode, everyone. Thank you as always for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our former managing editor, Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by Ben Elman. You can find Devindra online at
at Devindra at Blue Sky and all those fun places, Mastodon, and also podcasts about movies and TV at the Filmcast at thefilmcast.com.
If you want to send me your favorite Mac OS shortcuts for the keyboard or the trackpad, you can please send them to me at via email, Sherlyn@engadget.com, or on Threads, Sherlynstagram, CherlynStagram. And then email us your thoughts about the show at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review wherever you're listening or tuning in, because that will really help this show get discovered. And then subscribe on your favorite podcast platform.
Thanks, folks. We're out. All right, chat. How's it going?
Lots and lots and lots of questions in chat that I wish we could have gotten to. Devindra, I think that in your fixing your camera
Mhm.
situation, you've borked mine. No, I'm kidding. I
Oh,
think
I'm
I do. People are like, no, you look like you're dialing in from the 90s. And I'm like, I don't look like that to me, but okay. There were
I hope
people
like it
asking, I
looked
believe it
okay
was
in OBS, but yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
folks.
it might
Yeah.
be something else. It could just be on the stream, so no idea. We'll figure it out.
Mhm.
Um, I know that Wes Jackson asked about whether like who has the best AI. Was it Google in our opinion? And like it's hard to do apples to apples comparison right now just because you're so different.
Apple to
My
apple.
sense is that Chat GPT is like quite far ahead, but Gemini is like a really
Yeah.
close
Well, yeah, but I mean,
competitor.
DeepSeek
Mhm.
made everybody scared. So
I
where does
haven't
that
I
sit?
haven't used
Mhm.
DeepSeek.
That's
And
what I'm
also,
talking
by the
about.
way,
Mhm.
Gemini is in all the different things, right? OpenAI is not as widespread as Google is as like a company and as a service. So like
Mhm.
that's where the comparison kind
Yeah.
of can't
Google has
stack
the
up
home field
exactly.
advantage to like just roll it out to
Exactly.
everything running
Exactly.
Android.
Yeah. Um Wes Jackson says, is anyone watching the new Daredevil? I saw that on Disney Plus, I think. I haven't
I've
seen
seen
it
some of
yet.
the first episode. It's good. I'm sad that the original like creatives from the Netflix show aren't involved. Like that's a shame, but I'll check it out. Yeah.
Mo Esquire dropped a deep cut. Happily uses a Surface Duo for gaming every day.
What?
You found the one use case, man. I guess
How? What do
And
you
what gaming?
what gaming?
What game are we talking about?
solitaire,
Yeah,
Solitaire.
solitaire.
Okay.
Let's
if
be
we're talking
honest,
about
solitaire.
solitaire or
That
if
would
we're
be a
talking
good
about
Balatro
Um,
game.
Balatro,
Yeah.
then
Balatro,
sure.
also that. Um, I thought I saw one that I wanted to talk about, but it might be higher up than I think.
So
A
Kev
lot of people had.
Chadas.
Mhm.
Oh,
Hmm?
you go on, Shulin. You go.
I was just saying that a lot of people had gaming thoughts in addition to Mo's Surface Duo
Mhm.
cut, which is like they're never gonna pay subscriptions. Sony is so good at the console game. Wes Jackson says, unless that console game is handhelds. D-Man is like, I wish I should have picked up a PS Portal, which like I don't know, man. Like
No. I mean, if you get it really cheap, I've seen some sales under like $100 or something. Like I know like people on staff like it. Aaron Suporos loves it. Jess Condit loves her PlayStation Portal. I'm like, I look at that thing every day with hatred of just like
yeah,
how limited you
I know
are.
you do.
It can stream cloud games now, so that's something. Yeah.
I think the question I was looking for is someone had a question about the screen, like whether it on the MacBook, whether we would put a case on it or something. I can't
Hmm.
find it anymore, but if I see it, I'll talk about it again. And Wes Jackson is like, Apple's image playground is nightmare fuel. That should have cooked way long. Look, they all kind of are, but yeah,
They're
Apple's
all
one is
terrible.
pretty far back.
Apple's is pretty
Um,
far back, but I do not understand the joy of typing in words and seeing images appear.
Deepro 9 almost likes Copilot, and I'm like,
If it works for you, sure.
But Copilot is
oh
OpenAI, isn't it? So you were talking
no,
about
Mostly
how
well,
OpenAI. Mhm.
Gemini
it's a
is like
mix, right? It's
Mhm.
yeah.
way spread out and it's in everything. OpenAI is also in a lot of things that like users
Yep.
touch every day.
Yeah, ChatGPT is on the iPhone via
Yep.
like, so there is that, but Google just has the ability to blast it everywhere. It's in search,
Ge-
it's in
yeah.
docs, it's in yeah.
Gemini is replacing Google Assistant, and Copilot is like this
Hmm.
whole new thing in Windows. And like, because they gave up in Cortana, like the idea of an assistant in Windows is still kind of
Right.
new. So they have to
Right. And
reintroduce it.
also
Yeah.
market share wise, Edge is just not there. So like even embedding Copilot in Edge doesn't do
Yeah.
much for OpenAI. Shoot, I forgot there's something I wanted to say. Um yeah, I can't remember. Oh well.
Okay. So
Oh, I
Kev,
remember now.
oh, go
Speaking
ahead.
of Microsoft, one of the top stories in the last couple of days was Microsoft retiring the remote desktop app. And I gotta tell you, when we were like vetting that story in the before it went up, the headline was "Remote desktop app is going away," and then Microsoft retiring the remote desktop. I went, "Oh no!" And then the deck was, "Don't worry, it's still in the Windows app." I was like, "Oh,
It's
phew!"
still
Like it was
Mm.
there.
just the biggest roller coaster in like 2 seconds I could ever have.
Do you
Um,
have a lot of memories of the remote desktop app? Because I certainly do. Like back
I
before
I
it was so easy to do
remember.
things. Yeah.
Yes, especially when companies force you to use their machines instead
Yes.
of like you
Yes.
leave your laptop at the office. This was back when I worked in an office. You
Hmm.
leave it there and then you leave the remote desktop app open and you
You
can
leave
like
the remote desktop.
technically
Yeah.
access stuff. That's how I used to do it.
When I had a desktop in college, it would be, can't move a desktop, but I could be in
Yes.
the computer lab and like remotely
Yes.
access and do stuff. And we did. We're not cloud services, so you couldn't always like
Yeah,
go drop your files somewhere easily. So that was good. Shout out to remote desktop. Yeah.
I know.
Speaking of computer
Yeah.
stuff, I want to throw some stats at you guys here because I'm running this stream on this
Mm,
via the CPU now. 2% CPU usage for this OBS stream. Not bad. Not bad for a
Nice.
1080p stream going out 6,000 kilobits per second. Also, I was able to stuff 64 gigabytes of RAM in this computer, folks, and let me tell you,
nice.
feels freeing. When I see my browsers be like, "Hey, I want 10 or 15 gigabytes of RAM," and now I'm like, "Sure, fine. I'm not going to sweat it."
Yeah.
Whereas before, if I had 30, when I had 32 gigabytes of RAM, I was like, "This used to feel like a lot of RAM," and now the browsers are making it feel
No, I
really
know.
tight. Yeah,
But the browsers need to be
Quickly.
designed better too.
they
Let's
do.
be
They do.
real.
They do. Yes.
So actually,
Uh,
Mhm.
Kev Chata says in the chat when we were talking about like who should get which laptop,
Mhm.
MacBook Air versus MacBook Pro, said, "Do you need a Pro if you have 30 plus tabs open? Maybe you do,
Yeah,
but
you could get an
also
Air with
like
more RAM. So
yeah,
I don't know.
and the M series chips are just really good at processing with just sipping
For sure.
battery or
For
electricity.
sure.
So
What were you gonna say, Sherlyn?
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of people in the chat now that we were talking about remote desktop are asking. So Declan says, "So wait, what? So it's not going away because I use remote desktop every day." So no, it's just you need to use another app instead. It sounds like
The
their
Windows
article
app.
is on Engadget. And then Drew Kamoka is like, "Is it going out from Windows 10 as well?" I believe it's just going out from the app. The app itself, the standalone app, is going away, but you can still find that function within a different Windows app.
Mhm.
The details are in Igor's piece on Engadget.com. I only say this because I don't remember the details offhand. Notebook LM is crazy good, says DPro9, which is you're right. Notebook LM has been so incredibly impressive that it was actually one of our winners of Tech 2024. If you
Mm.
go back to find that article, Best of Tech in 2024 on Engadget.com. And I think we should start to wrap up. So I would like to
Sure.
say, everybody, say your goodbyes starting now. But in like we Buddy through, I'm gonna start like shouting out names, right? Buddy through 5 Love, Lucky Dog Podcast, Drew Carmoca, D Pro 9, Declan, Dude Named Charlie, D Man, Daniel Diaz or Danny Leong used to be here. We have Wes Jackson had a lot of chat comments today as well. Kev Chara, like Ben just mentioned, Mo Squire with the Surface Duo Gaming, Paradise, lots of names. So yeah, if we Kevin
eat
says,
your
by the way,
shorts
thank you
if
for
you're
the
still
question.
around. Goodbye.
We love that name. Goth Tech just said bye. All the people just said bye. Thank you very much for joining us. Richard Butterworth, Mr. Butterworth, or Mrs. I don't know,
Mhm.
or Miss. Yeah, it's been nice chatting with y'all as always. And luckily our stream managed to hang out thanks to Dev
Yeah. Surviving.
figuring it all out last night or yesterday.
And Declan is
And
right. Hit that like button before you leave.
Hit the like button. Subscribe to the
makes our process
podcast,
so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
all
So
that
the
fun stuff.
stream comes to you via OBS, done by Devindra. I do camera switching. It's all a two-person band, three-person band situation here. And thank you so much for watching. Chat, you make the conversation better and smarter. You remember stuff that we forgot. And let's do this again sometime. Next week, maybe.
All right. Thanks, folks.